Welcome to the show. We at Trucking Life welcome you all. Now, pull that rig over, hit the head, grab a drink and snack, settle in, and let's get this show on the road. And now, your host.
Hello, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to Sunday Brunch here with me, Big Rig Ed, and also Brooke Rogers. Hello,
That's right.
hello, and also Trip.
And Trip, that's right. How are you guys this morning?
We're doing great. We're doing great. It's a beautiful morning up here in Wisconsin. Let's see if I can
Wisconsin?
Wisconsin. There was one commercial that came out a long time ago that called it Wisconsin, and after that it has been Wisconsin.
It's stuck with you ever since.
Right. But
awesome.
Yeah, you'll have to look past the dog snot on my window, but yeah, no, beautiful.
Nice blue skies. Yeah, it is about 66 degrees here in Texas. It's beautiful, beautiful day.
Yeah, 35 degrees.
35 in Wisconsin?
Yeah, it was down to 19. I mean, it's warming up a little bit now that the sun's up, but this morning when I was walking Mr. Trip here, it was about 19 degrees.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was just over 80. It might have been 81 here in Texas yesterday.
I miss it already. I need to come back down and see you again.
Right? Exactly. It was way warm. That's what I know for sure.
Yeah.
So where are you headed after Wisconsin?
Well, I've got a load of potato chips, all 7,000 pounds.
7,000 whole pounds. Okay.
Yep, 7,000 whole. I am loaded stem to stern, floor to ceiling. 7,000 pounds of potato chips going to Germantown, Wisconsin.
Oh, awesome! Awesome.
Some German chip company I have never heard of before that apparently wants them. So
apparently they need them. Interesting.
Apparently so. Yep, they want me there at 9:00 on the dot Monday morning.
Nice. So Johnny Dean is in Seattle. He's spending time with our son Ricky this weekend, and they're having a blast doing their father-son bonding time since Johnny got laid over in Seattle for 4 days. He's spending time looking at Puget Sound right now. He's in Sequim. It's Sequim. It's so gorgeous over there. So he's got pictures he's going to post, I think, on Livin' Lovin' Truckin'. But so he's over there. He's supposed to be home hopefully this next weekend for about a week. So that'll be nice.
Excellent. Yeah, Seattle's beautiful, but to hell with driving a truck through it. I do not envy him at all, particularly with that super rig that you guys have. It's hard enough with just my regular truck.
Yeah,
you guys can have it. He's a better driver than me, that's for sure.
Well, 33 years in the industry, but he does not enjoy Seattle to drive through either. So don't worry, you're not the only one. Well, so today, guys, we've got a lot of stuff we're talking about. I'll kind of highlight what we're going to talk about, and then we'll just dive on in. Ed, there was a article that came out by Freight Waves that we're going to dig into hard and heavy, where analysts are kind of predicting what's happening in the trucking industry and where we're headed. And then later on in the show, we'll go over the convention for the Truckload Carriers Association, their annual convention, and some reports off of that. And then Dutch and TJ Granny, Miss Terry herself, are going to give us some updates on all the awesome, fun things that they have done at Matt's. Matt's is wrapping up today. They're kicking people out of the parking lots. And so at the end of the show, they'll have a bunch of highlights for us and talk about what they experienced over there. But let's dig into that Freight Waves article. This article is where analysts say that we could be headed. It's the Freight Waves CEO, Craig Fuller. He just put this article out 2 days ago. And in this article, they kind of talk about the different indicators, that create this, analytic information that they're putting together. But the Sonar Outbound Tender Volume Index is showing that March has been unusually soft, and that's one of their main indicators. But what I want to say is that the Sonar Outbound Tender Volume Index software, it's
rolls
OTVI.
off the tongue, doesn't it?
Right, it's like a tongue twister. But for those who don't know what that is, it's the software designed by FreightWaves to help us understand how the market volumes are changing over weeks, months, seasons, and years. This data is available for all 135 markets and tracks the amount of trucking freight transactions in a given market on a daily basis. So it's a pretty intense and in-depth informational tool that they use to do these analytics. So now, because this index measures actual truckload transactions, it provides a very reliable indicator of market direction.
I want to step on your toes for a second there. It measures contracted freight.
Yes,
so it's
it
not,
is. Yes.
So it's not like the spot market or anything like that, which is inherently volatile, just on its own.
Right.
This is from
contracted. Yes.
Right. Yeah. They get their information through companies that they partner with. It's like hundreds of companies, and each company gives them like 500 plus data points, and
right.
The OTVI. This is based off of contracted freight, which is supposed to be stable, right? Because this is stuff that these companies are supposed to be hauling regularly. And you have started biting me. I don't want to do this with you again.
Well, and that's the thing about it too, is that so it's not an actual, conclusive data, obviously, because it doesn't include it all, but it is a bigger picture, and it's big enough for them to get reliable data for sure.
But yeah, you were saying, I'm sorry, I kind of stepped on your toes. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. I was just going to ask you. So, after reading that article and, looking at those indicators that we were looking at, what are your thoughts? What are they saying? What are these analysts saying about where we're headed in the trucking industry, possibly?
Sure. So the big thing that I took away from that article was that March is supposed to be a pretty strong month. Like, typically year over year, March is typically a pretty strong month because it's the end of a quarter. It's still towards the beginning of the year. A lot of warehouses are getting ready for their summer freight, right? So, like in particular, your retailers are getting their summer merchandise in. So there's a lot of stuff to haul. A lot of warehouses are going to be trying to get rid of their inventories, ship it all out, get rid of it all. March is typically a good month for those reasons. But this particular March has been softer than at any other point in 2021 as an entire year. So it's very different. I'm drawing a blank on the word that I want to use, but it is not the way it is supposed to be.
It's a very unusual trend.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the big indicator for there is that basically we're seeing the same type of market now, or we're heading into the same indicators that we're seeing now, or the same kind of indicators that we saw as we head into the 2019 trucking downturn, which a lot of market analysts described by one word, and that word was bloodbath.
Bloodbath. Yep. And, from my perspective, the reason they called it that is so many businesses went out of business in 2019 because of the market. And so we'll kind of get into that a little bit more. But, what they're saying is that, so we've got a gap, you know what I mean, that's going to happen, that's going to shorten up. So in, traditional business with the trucking industry, you've got your freight rates. Okay, let's see if I can get my hand on camera. And then you've got your cost of doing business, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And they're saying that the rates are going to continue to fall, okay? And our cost of business is not going to raise or fall. So the cost of business is going to stay the same, and those rates are going to fall, which is going to narrow that income potential for companies and drivers alike. So they're saying that they anticipate that rates will continue to fall. I know that, where did I write that down? Yeah, so like as an example, so February retail sales well, here, we'll just go back into that. And they're still going to see the surge in fuel prices, but consumers are buying less because their money doesn't stretch as far when they're paying higher prices for things, right?
Yep.
And so we're going to see that oversupply of trucking capacity. Now, when you talked about the warehouses getting rid of their inventory over the last 2 years, with COVID, shippers have seen a shortage. And so what they did is they ordered a ton of stuff, and now they're stuck with what they've got. They're seeing that they've got a huge inventory, and so they
paid a premium for it too.
Right. Exactly.
Yep.
So let me ask you this: what are your thoughts on what they're saying as far as these predictions?
So I think this is the part where you asked me what are going to be the consequences of this market.
Right.
All right. So for context, I think we were going to talk about this a little bit later, but I will throw this number out there. The number that I found on the total number of trucking companies that went out of business in 2019 was it was over 800. 640 trucking companies went out of business in the first 6 months of 2019 alone.
Right.
And so when you have a softening freight market, which means less outbound freight, less loads overall, less demand for trucks, lowering freight rates. We're usually already operating on a razor thin market to begin with. Most trucking companies will take if they make 5 to 10 cents on the dollar for every dollar that they spend to operate their business, they consider that a success. So freight profit margins and hauling freight are razor thin, very tight as it is. So any drop in income is very very difficult to overcome. So you take that, you take that, and you juxtapose that with the fact that inflation is happening. Every truck that's being purchased right now is being purchased at a premium. Drivers are demanding more pay. So all of your costs of doing business are ratcheting up. And then there's also the current price of fuel, which is also, gone up anywhere between 30 to 40% in, the past, month or two, just on that. So all of these things combined, I personally believe that 2019 will look like child's play by the time
compared to what
we're
we're
done.
going into.
Right.
And
yeah. I think
that's
2022 and 2023 are going to be, banner years for just bad.
And after we read that article, I did, some more research, and it's not just FreightWaves predicting that potential. So let me give, we've talked about the increase in fuel rates. So truckload rates, let me give you an example of how fast they are falling. Truckstop.com's truckload rate peaked at $3.83 per mile in January. And just since January, it's currently at $3.42. So it took that 40-cent drop just in that short period of time. But they're saying that was nothing. That it's going to drop by another $1. They're predicting $2.50 per mile average by June. And that's only half the year. So that's what they're predicting just in that short amount of time, which leads to Bloodbath 2.0. Trucking has enjoyed the largest number of new entrants in history over the last 2 years. And you and I were talking about that, earlier. And, so one of the things that came up in that article is that 20,166 new fleet registrations happened last month alone. And that's unprecedented. And we were kind of discussing why we feel like, that is such a thing. And my personal opinion, and then I'll let you go in on what you said after we talked about that, was, people they're done. They're done being cooped up. They're done being locked down, and they're ready to ramp up and do business and get back to some semblance of normalcy. The problem being is what you said. What is your thought?
Right. So we're not done.
Right.
It's just going to get worse. It's just going to keep on going. But you said it was 21,000 and some odd new truck registrations. Do you have a time frame on that? I didn't find that number. When
It was just that was just in February. That was new registrations in February alone.
February 2022?
Yes. Yeah.
Holy crap. Yeah, those guys, yeah, I feel bad for those guys. So I think a lot of what I said last night was that, when you said that registrations were up, I said that made a lot of sense. And the reason was that, go back to summer of 2021, vaccines were out. The alpha variant of COVID-19 was kind of in, remission, so to speak. And, and everyone was starting to feel really good about everything, and the market was bouncing back, and, happy feelings, happy, joy all around. And then we started to get the Delta variant. And then we also ran into the global supply chain crunch. And, one of the knee-jerk reactions of the supply chain crunch was that there simply weren't enough trucks to move the freight that needed to be moved. There was all of these containers, particularly at the docks down at the ports and in the train yards, there were all of these containers that needed to be moved, and there just weren't enough trucks to move them, and, if you happen to be an owner operator down there at that time, you were making a windfall because all of a sudden you could charge. Oh yeah, you were working, and all of a sudden you could charge, thousands of dollars to move a container, and these retailers were desperate enough. I'm sorry, I got to take a squeaker away from them.
Oh no, you're
good. This is what I'm dealing with, this little whale. But yeah, no, they were desperate enough to get their merchandise in their stores in time for Christmas that they were willing to pay. And so the cost of trucks were at a huge premium. Drivers were making, a windfall on their own. I saw increases in my pay as a company driver. You take all of these things combined, and you're going to get a lot of new registrations, because everyone's thinking it's going to be good for them. Good time to get into the market.
Yeah, they're excited. They're like, ooh, freight rates are up. We're going to, have some great work. We're going to invest in these higher premium trucks, and we're going to run our ass off, and we're going to make all this cash. The problem being is they were falsely led to believe that this is going to be a strong time for them to do that. And,
it's a boom, and we're headed to a bust.
Right. And the last time that we had a peak this high, and let me give you reference to this, okay? So I just told you 20,166 new registrations in February, okay? The last time that we had a peak like this was in August of 2019, okay? And it was only 9,511. So less than half, okay? New trucking fleet registrations, and that was during one of the weakest markets in history, and we saw what happened. You know what I mean? For 2019, so we've got this huge influx of new registration for fleets, and a ton of new trucks and a ton of new owner operators coming out here. Many who are inexperienced in the industry, sometimes unseasoned. But definitely,
they're not going to have the cash on hand.
They're not prepared to run a business in what's about to happen.
Right.
That's going to be the biggest thing. And I think you're right. So what is your opinion about the consequence of that, specific situation? That they're going to come in and not be prepared.
Right. So my dark humor tells me that it's going to be a great time for the used truck market.
Right.
Because these guys are going to go out of business. They're not going to be able to survive. They're not going to be able to survive a $2.50 a mile freight rate. Not particularly not when diesel's $5 a gallon. And I was reading an article on that. Basically, as far as the oil companies are concerned, the price of fuel is going to stay where it's at for at least the next year.
Is that what they're predicting?
That's what they're predicting. Basically, what's happening right now is, the supply is low, demand is high, prices are up. And so, yeah, there's been a lot of calls for, oil companies, in particular American oil companies, to increase supply by drilling and extracting more. The problem is that, you got to keep in mind, these are corporations. They do have shareholders on Wall Street, and the shareholders are saying that they're basically tired of the boom and bust of the oil market, and they're telling, Exxon, BP, all these corporations, don't drill, don't increase supply, make money, basically.
Interesting.
So,
yeah.
And when you're a corporation, you're beholden to your shareholders. So if they say don't increase supply, you're not going to increase supply.
So, wow. So, as a little, so you and I were going to talk a little bit too. I don't know if this is the right time, but we could kind of throw that in there. Your experience as a company driver versus like Johnny and I's experience as owner operators leased onto a company. And so Johnny and I, in this situation, and I kind of told you guys this last Sunday or whatever, that what we're trying to do, because that gap is shortening between what we're going to make, you know what I mean, is I am going to jump back in the truck with him and we're just going to run harder. And it's not working smarter, you know what I mean? It's working harder right now, but we don't have a choice, you know what I mean? In order to sustain our level of income that we want and need, we're just going to run more often.
Yeah, that truck can't stop, basically. Yeah.
Right. We're going to try and run at least an extra trip a week. So that's what we do, to try and compensate in this situation. And we, continue to hope and pray that the company that we're leased onto, has the cash capital to ride out this storm. And, we've had a conversation with our specific owner of the company that we're leased onto, and he feels confident that he's ready, because 2019 kicked his ass, to the point where he really thought hard about, that ever happening again. So he feels like he's prepared for what's about to come. But how do you feel that could affect you as a company driver?
So, I mean, yeah, whenever you're a company driver, all you can really do is just kind of hold on and hope for the best, because you have, you don't really have any input. I mean, the company that I work for is not exactly forced dispatch. The one thing about them is that they do pay their drivers more than what you would get at an average company. But the downside of that is that in order for them to do that, they've basically got to take on the freight contracts that other companies wouldn't necessarily want to take. So we deal with customers that are very difficult to deal with. A lot of very tight parking spots and stuff like that. Places you don't want to see a Schneider or a Swift truck, or not that I'm saying that these guys can't do it either, but you know what I'm trying to say. You need a professional in order to be able to handle these places. And
Margaret just brought up a point. I don't know if you saw her comment there that, it, as far as industry wide, one of the safest places to be could possibly be as a company driver. And I'll tell you, let's get into the companies that went bankrupt in 2019. Let's have that conversation. Sure. I wrote down some of them, and I know that you were going to take a look at a couple too, and then we'll talk about some of the big ones and how and why they went bankrupt. So let me give you just some perspective. New England Motor Freight, NEMF, that was 1,472 jobs lost, 2019. Falcon Transport out of Ohio, I know you're going to talk a little bit more about that, 585 jobs. Kearney Trucking out of Alabama, 25 jobs. LME out of New Brighton, Minnesota. Now, the crazy thing about LME, you guys, they were in freaking business for 101 years. They had 30 terminals in 10 states, over 600 employees, and 2019 kicked their ass, took them out of business. You know what I mean? ALA Trucking out of Indiana, another 56 jobs lost. And then, we got Celadon, that was what? 5,000 jobs lost.
It was 2,000. I actually have the numbers here because I was going to talk about them later. It's 2,553 drivers, 2,771 trucks, and they had over 1,300 office employees across the entire Celadon. Yeah, because they weren't just a trucking company; they were a logistics group.
Right. And so the big one that I want to talk about is HVH Transportation out of Denver. In the first half of 2019, you talked about that it was 640 freight companies closed their doors, resulting in 20,000 trucks being pulled off the road. That was just before what, June, I think?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So HVH, let's have that conversation. And then I know you want to talk about the reasoning for a couple of the others. So HVH out of Colorado, they went out of business the end of August, leaving some drivers stranded on the side of the road, closed their doors without hardly any notice. And I remember reading an article, and I remember this happening. I remember we were all talking about it because we had friends in the industry who were like trying to help drivers who were stranded all over the country with this specific shutdown. And this is what went down. So the company had been paying $150,000 a month for insurance with a $100,000 deductible. Their insurer raised their rates to $358,000 a month and wanted a $750,000 deposit to write that policy. Okay, so what did that do? Sucked up every ounce of their cash flow, right?
Right.
So by the end of August, the banks froze all of their assets because their liquidity had dropped below $500,000, including their fuel cards. They no longer worked. They shut their fuel cards off. So they were able to reinstate their fuel cards right after they, shut off for the first little bit. And I know their dispatchers were frantically on the phone trying to get their drivers to hurry and fuel up while the fuel cards worked, and so that they had enough fuel to get safely home. But it still didn't matter. They had drivers stranded all over the place, which is crazy because when you think about HVH in 2018, they grossed $60 million. Then the next year they bankrupt. So I mean, you could sit there and analyze that all day long, but it came down to cash flow. It came down to liquidity. And they had 120 drivers, 250 owner operators, 75 office employees. And they had, I don't remember exactly how many trucks, but it was like 300 trucks that they were leasing from Penske and Ryder that all got repossessed. So that's one company that went down in 2019 and the effect that it had on the industry. What were the ones that you found?
So one thing I want to talk about there, because you talked about insurance, right before, I would say like a couple of years, I think around like 2016, 2017, the company that I was working for at the time was Rail Transport. And they had to go outside of the United States to find an insurance company that could write them the kind of insurance policy to where, if one of our drivers had done something incredibly stupid, like killed like a minivan full of kids, something really tragic, something really terrible. Like I'm not saying that happened. What I'm saying is they needed that kind of insurance policy. They couldn't find it in America. They had to go to London in order to find it.
Oh, wow.
And one of the stipulations that that company put on, keep in mind, this is a company of over 2,000 trucks, like 2,500 drivers. We had never had inward-facing driving cameras before. And once we got into business with that insurance company, that was their stipulation. We had to have inward-facing, always-on, driver-facing cameras in every single, not even every single truck, but every single like company vehicle. They all had cameras in them after that. And I'll, I'm sure any driver that tell you, you don't even have to be doing anything illegal. Just having that camera in your face just makes you feel very uneasy, because you never know what it's seeing.
I've got definite opinions about because and the argument about that is that we live in that truck. You know what I mean? We live in that space when we're out on the road. So it's almost like they've got a camera in your bedroom. I mean, obviously you're driving and you're not sleeping, but still, you know what I mean?
Yep.
That's that's a crazy argument right there, but.
Right.
Yeah.
So the two that I found that I want to talk about were Falcon Transport. Falcon Transport is out of Youngstown, Ohio. It was, I think you had the number of 723 trucks, 585 drivers. Basically, 8 p.m., April 27th, there was a message sent out to all drivers saying to stop working immediately. So it was just that simple. They were one of the largest flatbed companies in the industry. One of the biggest reasons why they went out of business is because they were over leveraged with General Motors. Falcon Transport had they had the contract to haul steel for the Chevy Cruze Lordstown, Ohio plant. And when GM basically got out of the small car market and they shut down that Chevy Cruze plant in Lordstown, I mean, that was like their biggest customer basically. And after that, they couldn't survive. There were like some allegations of fraud just because the way that they shut down reminded a lot of people of Aero Trucking back in 2009.
That was a big one.
Too much. Yeah, that was a big one. And I didn't find too much there, but I didn't dig too much either. I'm sure someone in the comments would be like, "Ed, you idiot! Of course there was fraud or whatever," and go from there. But Celadon Transportation was the one that I was more interested in doing this. And the reason why is because the worst accident I've ever been in as an individual happened when I was a kid, and we were in a minivan. We got sideswiped by a Celadon truck. So,
oh wow!
So every time I saw a Celadon truck, I'm like, oh.
Trauma response, right? Trigger.
Right. But yeah, 2,553 drivers, 2,771 trucks. The number I found was about 1,300 office employees. They were the 38th largest carrier in the United States at the time. And they went out of work overnight. They were still hiring drivers the week that they went out of business. There was a story I found of a guy that had just started. They had just started the job, and it was and they went out of business, and it was a hassle for him, you know, because like when you start a job, particularly a job like Celadon, you don't have a whole lot of money in your pocket.
No.
And, you know, and so it was a hassle for him just to get his, the pay that they had guaranteed him for orientation. Drivers were left stranded. Gas cards were canceled. They're actually, you know, there was more than allegations of fraud in this case here. The SEC had, there were convictions. Former executives were indicted and convicted on conspiracy to commit fraud charges. $42 million had to be paid in restitution because that they were extremely fraudulent in their bookkeeping. Their accountant company, you know, basically said that their financial statements couldn't be relied upon. And after they got slapped with that $42 million charge, they were out of business very soon after that.
So what it boils down to, that bloodbath of 2019 is, you know, if you survived, it's because your business practices were on point. I mean, that's right. That's what it seems like to me.
Had to diversify. Mm-hmm. I was working at Schneider at the time when the bloodbath happened. And that was a big news thing back then too. Was that Schneider? It's a big company, but it's also publicly traded. They had to change their profit. What am I trying to say? Their profit estimations. I'm not saying the right word there. It was big news when all that was happening. Was because Schneider was saying, we're not going to make a whole lot of money this year. You know, we got 20,000 trucks. We're just not. We're probably going to break even. And
which is crazy. And so that's, I mean, so you know, we look at all that data from 2019 and that they quoted that as being the bloodbath. I mean, that's what you see in all the news articles. And now the one that we just got done reading from Freight Waves is they're saying bloodbath 2.0. And like you said, you know, they're saying that 2019 was nothing compared to what the next year and a half is going to bring.
Yeah, because diesel wasn't $5 a gallon back in 2019.
Right. Yep. Nuts, guys. Well, we got to take a commercial, Ed. So let's take a quick commercial break, and we'll come back and let's talk about that Truckload Carriers Association annual convention and Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg's comments.
All right.
Hey, this is Pat.
And this is Heather.
For the Misadventures of Pat and Heather, come check us out on our stream. We are unpredictable, unscripted, and un-PC.
What?
Oh yeah, that's Tinkerbell too. You might be able to see her too. So come check us out. Only on Trucking Life.
Have you ever thought of live streaming your life behind the wheel? Trucking Life is currently looking for live streamers. contact us at truckinglife.live@gmail.com for info on how to become part of our growing team of live streamers. Trucking Life, showing the world how it all gets moved from here to there.
And we're back.
And
Did
we're
you miss
back.
us?
They
We missed
did.
you.
Right? We missed them horribly, but they definitely missed us too, I can guarantee. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Truckload Carriers Association, their annual convention. Before we get into the truck parking crisis, which is the big one you and I want to talk about, do you mind taking a minute and talking about the talking points where they were talking about improving compensation and improving infrastructure? Do you have a little bit of notes on that?
A couple. All right.
Okay.
So Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg, he spoke to the Truckload Carriers Association a couple of days ago. He did it via video. He called on the industry to basically, he just started outlining a lot of issues that the industry faces that makes the job harder than it has to be. And I think that every driver that has driven for long enough says that there's a lot of things about this job that are just harder than they have to be. And a lot of the insight that he gained from that was because he actually went out on the road, something that a Secretary of Transportation hasn't done. I don't think he went out on the road with some drivers. He's got some videos of him doing it. I haven't watched any of that footage, but I was just really impressed that he decided to do that, because
I was going to say that gives him a better perspective. So that's good.
Yeah, yep. And one thing he called on was that we have to improve compensation for all drivers, mainly because, it's got to be worth it again, inflation's happening. Our dollar doesn't go as far as it used to. But, at the same time, it's a job that asks a lot of people, because we're gone from our families and from the things that usually we think are most important for so long. He also talked a lot about detention time. He praised the TCA on putting a spotlight on unpaid detention time, because that's a problem that's been existent in the industry for a really long time. Is warehouses basically just using us as storage. This load of potato chips that I picked up, 9 hours. It took them 9 hours to load me. But the great thing is I work where I work. My boss, when he found out that it wasn't an open pickup, that it was a 9 p.m. appointment, he said that I'm going to start paying you detention time from the time that you arrived there. And, yep. And, I'm a company driver, but I still get $25 an hour for detention. So that's actually not bad.
I was going to say, at least you're getting paid, because that's been the biggest thing is, the industry, they come and say that there's a truck shortage, and that's not accurate. We've had that conversation. It's a employee retention shortage and issue. Right. And so, by improving compensation with companies like yours, where they make it better and easier, to do the job, then, that helps with that situation.
Yep. So I think we were going to talk a little bit more about detention in a little bit. The guy in the truck next to me staring at me, he's probably wondering what the fuck I'm doing.
He's like, is he talking to himself? What's he doing?
Right. I've got my phone balanced on my HVAC controls. Let's see. He called out the large debt loads that are taken on by training. I know you wanted to talk about training. Yeah, I know you wanted to talk about training in a different episode, but he did specifically call out how much it costs for training. So just to kind of put things into perspective, I went to one of the longest and most expensive truck driving training schools in the United States. I haven't found one that's worse than mine yet. Diesel Driving Academy in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. It's a 5-month long course. It's a college accredited course. Cost $10,500 back in 2012.
And I know that Margaret Develot, and by the way, Margaret is going back to work, you guys, and we're going to run her commercial here in a little bit, but she's going back to work and she's watching us right now. She was saying hi, and she's
hi, Marge.
Did she tell me? Hold on, I want to look. She's in Atlanta, headed to Jackson, Mississippi. So anyway,
snap.
Right? But Margaret, the only reason I said let's have that conversation on another show is because I know Margaret is really passionate about the training schools as well, and she would really like to get in on that show with you.
Right. Yep. And that half of my career has been spent as a CDL instructor. So
exactly. And I would love it. to, put you guys in that conversation and just, hash out all those logistics and details. Cause I think that that's pretty interesting information for sure in the industry.
Yep. So he called out, there was a few companies that have started to adopt the different model that's becoming more popular in driver training, which is the on-the-job training model, where individuals, instead of you going to a school and you pay tuition for training, you're hired as an employee on day one, and you're paid as an employee to receive CDL training. And the idea is that you just then have to work for that company for a certain amount of time in order to pay off your debt, and that turns into a whole different issue there, and that's something I think Margaret and I can really talk about. But there's been a few companies that have signed on to that kind of model. Milton Truck Lines, Tyson Foods, and DM Bowman were the three that were outlined in that article as starting that whole thing. And then he also advocated for individual states to submit applications for federal funds to build more truck parking, more public truck parking. So basically, as part of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act of 2021, some of that money was set aside to build more public truck parking. And so he is basically just waiting for states to submit their applications so that the funds can be distributed and we can get started on that whole process.
So let's delve into that, because that's a big issue. We've talked about it on several different shows, that truck parking is a massive issue. I want to quote, it's bad. It is so bad. And there was a specific Landline article by Mark Schremer that came out 3 days ago. The FMCSA is their acting administrator spoke at NATS over the weekend, Robin Hutchison. And they're saying that the association is feeling the urgency of the truck parking shortage and issues. It's when they do the truck shows, and then obviously when they receive complaints, throughout the year and whatnot, they take a look at the issues that drivers are reporting. They get their feedback, and one of the major issues that came out of NATS is they're saying, we don't have anywhere to park, nowhere that's safe. They're hearing complaints, and so they're trying to work with the Federal Highway Administration and work these issues out. What I feel like when I read this article, and I'm sure you probably feel the same, but sometimes it feels like the right hand is not talking to the left. And that's why we have a major issue. I don't know how many states closed rest areas completely down and truck parking completely down over COVID. We're still out here running. You know what I mean? Yeah. And we needed places to park, and they shut down every rest area in one state.
Yeah, you remember I remember I-76 in Pennsylvania, and on I-76 in Pennsylvania, it's a tollway. There's no other place to park really, other than the toll plazas. I mean, by all means, you want to, shut down like the insides, like shut down like the restaurants or whatever for COVID. Okay, fine, but I mean, you can leave the parking lots open, put out some porta potties or something. I mean, I'm not saying that that's ideal. I'm not saying that I would be happy with that. But at least it's something, like how can we haul freight, unless you're just going to want trucks lined up on the side of the road, it's really the only thing you can do at that point.
Right. Well, and we'll get into that too, but I know just from talking, Margaret and I have talked about that a lot, and we've talked about that as board of directors and on several of our shows, and that's why one of the reasons we're doing and partnering with Margaret on that Truckers Are Humans hashtag movement, because we want humane conditions. We need to be able to park somewhere that's safe, where we can rest, and that we can use a restroom, all the things. I mean, it's just crazy that there are still places and states that think that we don't need those things. You know what I mean? It's unreal.
Yeah. There's so many rest areas. Like if I'm on my GPS over here, I can pull up a list of all the rest areas on my route, and it's it'll notate whether they're a full facility or a partial facility. And if it says partial facility, that means no bathrooms. And, you know, the thing is that, you know, that super rig that you guys have, I don't know if it's got a toilet in it or not. But mine doesn't. I have no running water in this thing. I need a bathroom. And,
Right.
you know, you know, there's always like kind of like a workaround type of way, you know, if you really had an emergency, but I mean, that's not ideal, and you don't want to be relying on that. And, particularly not every day. And, you know, and in particular, you know, trucking is a 24/7 industry. You know, yeah, a lot
Absolutely.
of us run during the day, but there's some freight that has to be moved at night. And the
Yes.
problem is for individuals out there 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, you know, if they need to stop and use the restroom, or if they need to take a nap or whatever, they're usually SOL, you know, there's usually not anywhere for them to go, unless they're
Exactly.
taking up a fuel island. You know, they
Right.
might be able to park in a fuel island, but that's about it.
Well, let me run down through some of these talking points that were in that article. I know we've got Dutch and Terry waiting in the background to give us their updates on mats, but I'm going to run down through this real quick and we'll kind of highlight these. So we were talking about Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg testifying at the Senate committee
Buttigieg.
hearing. Say that?
Boot edge is how you say it. Boot edge edge.
I'm going to say Pete.
There you go. Yep. Call him Secretary Pete. There you go.
Right, Secretary Pete, about possible funding avenues to create more truck parking. I know that Robin Hutchison also mentioned like public and private partnerships, as well as the FMCSA's ability to give out innovative technology grants to states for programs that make truckers aware of available parking. And I don't remember which states off the top of my head. Do you, Ed? There are some states, I want to say Tennessee is one of them, that will tell you like how many parking spots, is it Illinois too, are coming up in
Indiana, Ohio.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Oh, and Wisconsin's one of them. Yeah, so there's a few of them that will say, you know, these are the number of truck spots available at this rest area, so many miles up the road. Yeah.
Right. So I know the FMCSA, they're working on specific grants, you know, for public and private sectors for people who are getting the information out to truckers and telling them what is available. They're working at, you know, on that as well. Some states are more proactive than others. We've had that conversation. In 2019,
Minnesota. I'm sorry, it just popped in my head, Minnesota. Sorry, go ahead.
Right, exactly. In 2019, Jason's Law report found that 98% of truck drivers regularly experience problems finding safe parking. 98%, people. What the hell? It's not even just about safety at that point. We talked about humane conditions. But anyway, in February, OIDA wrote to House committee saying as well that there is a national shortage of truck parking, which makes it difficult for drivers to find a place to take a break when they need to rest or when they're required to do so by federal law. The parking shortage is a national safety crisis, which leads to delays and perpetuates inefficiencies in the supply chain. We could go on and on and on. It's the cart before the horse. It's all the things. The right hand not talking to the left. There's so many things that factor into why we're in this situation. But what are your thoughts? Let's wrap up your thoughts on that, and then we'll go take a commercial before they come in and tell us all the fun they had.
So, and this is probably a bigger critique and thought that I have about the industry as a whole, but there's so much about this industry that basically just barely works, and it's been barely working for a number of years. And because it barely works, then a lot of people just say, oh, well, then it works just fine then because it works,
right.
You know,
and it's not,
and
not
yeah, you know,
acceptable.
like for example, like the spot market for freight. You know, like you put out a load and you just assume that eventually someone will come along to pick up that freight. They may not ever, you know, but then, you know, how do you service your customers at that point? You know, there's just a lot of things about this industry that it's amazing that it works at all. And yeah, you know, it's exactly like you said, you know, right hand's not talking to the left. And, you know, I mean, there are companies that operate that way. Like, you know, that's a big reason why I left Schneider, for example, is because, you know, they, the stupidest things would happen that didn't need to happen. And then at the end of the day, they just shrug and say, well, that's trucking. And it doesn't have to be. You know, we're professionals, we're professional drivers. We need to do the work not, drivers, administrators, regulators, executives, everyone needs to start coming together and start, and start, putting the professionalism back in professional drivers. It's the only way we as a country can improve, because we need to be able to move our freight. We need to be able to move our economy, and we
I
need
agree.
to do it in a better way than we're doing it right now.
And one of the things I love is that opportunities like Matt's, the Mid-America Truck Show, brings people together to have these conversations, sometimes too. And, there were
It's a
some
great
great people
segue.
at the show. Right. It's not just about seeing the pretty trucks and the chrome. There is networking, there is opportunities to have these conversations and really understand the industry on a better level. So with that, we're going to take a quick commercial break, you guys. And if you haven't started your freaking taxes, get it done. You got 3 weeks? April 18th is coming up. But Sarah, my sister, is got a commercial coming up for you about tax preparation. And then we're going to come back and talk to Dutch and TJ Granny about their experience over in Louisville. We'll see you in just a minute, guys. Let's have that commercial, Judd.
Tax season is here, and the time to get your tax return done is flying right by. If you want your tax return done correctly and at a reasonable price, call me, Sarah Darwin, at 903-932-8249. I offer free estimates and lower fees. Reach out to me today. I would love to help you.
Hi, guys. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Sure miss your face, Missy.
Miss you too. It's been a long
Dutch,
couple
how's
days,
it going?
but so much fun.
Right? Dutch, you're doing good too?
Oh, yeah. Very good. Getting ready to get back on the road, unluckily.
Right? You guys been playing for the last few days. Are you both headed out today to go back to work or what?
Yeah, I'm on my way to pick up my trailer now and head north to Elkhart.
Awesome. And what about you, Dutch?
I don't have to pick up in Jeffersonville until about midnight tonight, so I'm going to head up to the Loves in Memphis, Indiana. And then I'm going to sit up there for a little bit, and then I'm going to head in and pick up my load of water.
Oh, awesome. Well, guys, let's talk about the fun that you had. I know you've got a ton of pictures, Dutch. Terry, before we let Dutch jump in with all of his pictures, because Jed's got a whole ton, you tell me your favorite couple things about Matt's that you absolutely enjoyed, and then we'll let Dutch take over and show us all his pictures.
I absolutely, of course, the parking lot where you get to socialize with other drivers and
I was so jealous.
Yeah, the camaraderie at these truck shows. I've been to many, and it's just phenomenal the way that truckers get together. Sorry about Murphy.
That's okay. And, Murphy wants to talk.
Yeah, we get together and we talk about issues like you were talking before the break, and different ways that we as drivers can make an impact and try to make some change, working with our carriers or brokers. But also just the fun, the relaxed environment, the getting out of your cab, sitting around a fire pit. You get families that come in and bring free food for drivers. You just make a donation.
Oh, awesome.
And then the networking, like we got to meet Hope, who does trucking yoga, who definitely wants to come on and help and give us some insights on how to do some stretching to try to keep our body a little healthier and mobile. Meeting things like that, Christian networks. It's so much, Brooke. We need to see our show. And if you do come next year, bring Tylenol and comfortable shoes, because you can do it all in 1 or 2 days. It is so much, not only, like you said, the beautiful trucks and the rides, you get to meet the drivers. We got to meet some amazing veterans. Walter from Clean Harbor. Oh my gosh, just, to reminisce also about their history as a veteran and now transitioning into driving, and what they've had to deal with. But women drivers, stay at home or ride with their spouses. Very few do I get to meet husbands that ride with their wives, like my scenario,
Right.
But nonetheless, the biggest issue is it's one family. That's like in the 80s when we started. That's how it was out here on the road. Everybody was a family. And like Dutch can attest to, when we're at these truck shows, it's like back in the day, we are one big family. If you're in that lot and you're hungry, you're thirsty, you're hurting, you've got anybody that will help you.
Wow.
It's really reminiscent of the 80s and the early 90s, 70s, that type of era of mentality. And it's such a refreshing thing to see. And
I love that.
Yeah. There's classes being taught on, like owner operators and like with your sister, taxes and a lot of different educational things going on. You've got different safety classes, which is so wonderful for newer drivers in the first year there.
Right.
Just so much, Brooke. I could go on and on. If any of you ever get an opportunity to go, and unfortunately Dallas is defunct now, but they have a show in Joplin, Walcott. But this one particularly really concentrates on a lot of safety and education aspects, which is phenomenal.
Awesome.
So if anybody gets a chance to go, please, even if it's just for one day, swing through. There's tons of parking usually. This year was a little more packed because it was the 50th, so it was a lot of four-wheelers were there. A lot.
Yeah.
They have the nice trucking area. Just stop in for the day if you can. We had a Clay Walker concert, a tractor pull. Just come in and socialize and meet some new people and make some new friends. You can meet lifelong friends at these places. You'd be surprised who you can. Richard Petty. I mean,
that's way cool. I saw you post that. I was like, oh my God, so fun.
So I just recommend anybody bring some comfortable shoes, some Tylenol, whatever.
Right.
Pack a bag because you get a lot of free supplies, free samples. I mean, you get, like I got a thing, a bull snot odor eliminator, a bull snot. I love things.
Nice.
Bull snot.
Right.
So just
awesome.
Take the chance. Ask your company if you're a company driver, if you're an owner out, please schedule for next year. Come by, see us. And really, really get just an experience you'll never forget.
I'm so excited that you guys had such a good time. And we were trying to go as a board of directors here at Trucking Life. We were trying to actually go to Matt's this year, and it wasn't in the cards this year. But we plan on being at all the major three big ones, Matt's, Dallas, and Iowa.
Dallas is now defunct. There is no longer a Dallas Truck Show.
Oh, did they?
They completely shut it down. Yeah.
Oh, see, I knew that they had for COVID, but I hadn't heard that it was permanent. Dang it.
Yeah, they're completely. From what we're being told, is the organizers of Matt's and then the organizers of GATS in Dallas really just, and there was so much tension, and there was a lot of. And I've been to the Dallas show. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
It was hot as heck, but so much fun.
Right.
I guess there was a lot of drama and problems in the parking lot and with the sponsors and the vendors. That's just what we're being told. Now, I can't, I wouldn't bet my paycheck on any of the information. But
we'll have to check into that. But yeah, we definitely plan on attending Matt's next year, and I'm excited. I'm so jealous that you guys had so much fun, but I'm so glad that you did.
And I'm so grateful for Dutch because my friends at the last minute could not make it. They had truck problems, and so I was basically there alone, which means nothing when you're, because you can make friends everywhere. But Dutch came along and to this show. Dutch and I had been, had talked briefly and we were able to hang out and spend a couple days together, and he kept me company, and he was like, make sure you hydrate. He was like, he kept calling himself my bodyguard. And everybody assumed that we were married walking around. So we were our weekend marriage, because everybody just assumed husband and wife. So it was kind of funny. But a big thank you to Dutch for keeping me company and taking care of, hanging out with Murphy, and a big thank you to Dutch for that.
Oh, awesome. Well, Dutch, tell me about your experience. And Ed's got like 50 gazillion photos that you sent him. So what was your favorite part?
everything. Everything was, I mean, it's my first show ever here. I mean, like the 50th year, my first time here, meeting the new people. I mean, meeting Lefty, Trucker G.
Left lane, lefty. Yeah.
Yeah, Left Lane Lefty, Trucker G. I mean, I met everybody. I mean, I met what's his name again? Alex
Tony
Nye.
Justice.
He has his own Facebook page. And
You met Tony Justice, Dutch, didn't you?
Yep, I mean, Tony. He was actually here in the actual parking lot doing a concert, and he was just here now. I just talked to him. Nice guy. I mean, they're all so nice. They all respect us because they know what we do. I think Tony Justice actually is a truck driver, to tell you the truth.
He is, yes. Yeah, he is.
So yeah, he's a sweet guy. They're all sweet people, and I mean, meeting up with other people like Lori and James, that was awesome. I mean, and we're all like a family. We're all like a family. And I mean, and that one trailer that her and we always hung out every night was Burnt Beans Commissary.
Yeah.
Oh my God! If you have a chance to come here,
check out their Facebook page.
They don't ask for any kind of money. They don't ask for anything, just donations. And they're the sweetest people. I mean, they cut it up with you. They get to know you. You get to know them. I'm on their page now, and I just said thank you so much for everything. I mean, that's the food. I mean, that's the only thing you eat right around here, and it's hot dogs, hamburgers, lasagna, stuff like that. But it was great. I mean, and then there was that guy Carl that we met with if you see the picture that I have of them, he has a yellow wig on. He was so funny. He made everybody laugh.
He was funny.
I wish I could say goodbye to him because he's retiring the next 2 weeks, he says. And I'm like, wow. I mean, but he's been driving forever. I mean, you never know who you're going to meet. And of course, TJ Granny, I mean, she's my bigger sister now. I love her to death. I mean, her dog Murphy. We couldn't find each other for long. We're like, what the hell? I mean, then I looked at it. She said, "Oh, my truck has a missing front bumper on the right hand side." I was like, "Okay, that's gotta be her." So I knocked on the door. TJ, Dutch, yeah, hey, how's it going? We just hung out the rest of the time. Hi, Murphy.
Murphy loved Dutch. Murphy loves Dutch.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh!
And she does not like
so many different dogs. I mean, there was Lola, there was Max, there was. I mean, it's just like a whole big family. I mean, this place. I mean, I wish I could switch my camera around, but I don't know how to. But I mean, this place is huge. It's 30 acres. And then they finally opened up the last part, which is like straight ahead of me. I'm looking straight at that stadium, and they opened it yesterday. Now it's half full. I mean, this place was so. The first day I got here, there might have been, I say maybe 200 trucks. But I swear, with the last day, there must have been at least 500-600 trucks easily. Yeah, that's the picture. That's exactly where I'm at. It was. I mean, the tents are still there. Of course, they have showers. Not the biggest showers. I mean, I walked in there just to take a look before they shut it down. I'm like, but it doesn't matter. I mean, everyone knows that people are out here. It's hard to take showers. It's hard to do this. People are just like, hey, do you need anything? Let me know. And like I met the owner of Bull Snot. He gave me let me see if I can find it. Here it is. He had the little chip that he gives everybody, and that's his business card. He says, "You lose your business card, but you're not going to lose this chip." I said, "Okay." Right. And I asked him. I said, "Hey, you want to stream with us? You want to have commercials done?" He's like, "Yeah. Contact us." So I'll give you the information later. But I mean, I've met so many people. I mean, I made networking. I must have made at least 40, 50 fans here, maybe more. I don't know.
Hey, Brooke, what Dutch was talking about, that Burnt Beans Commissary.
Yeah, yes.
A gentleman named Don McKinley, driver, veteran, father, husband, used to go to these truck shows for years and years, and he's always had a food tent for anybody that was hungry. He never he never asked for money. Well, he passed away in 2014. And his children, Megan, Cody, and I'm not going to remember the other one. And then a very good family friend named Tiny, who was like 6.
I don't know why they call him Tiny, because he's not tiny. He's not tiny.
They out of their own pocket every year come to this and put up massive tent, like Dutch said, just hamburgers, hot dog, goulash, pasta, desserts, soda, water. And so they just asked for donations. And so that check out their Facebook page, because you talk about drivers helping drivers. And here the driver and the family still spends thousands of dollars every year at this truck show to feed drivers. So I just wanted to say
Burnt Beans Commissary. Is that what you said?
Burnt Beans Commissary.
Oh my gosh, you guys, I am so excited. You guys had such an amazing experience, it sounds like, and just networked with some amazing individuals, it sounds like. That's so awesome, you guys.
Yeah, a couple of really nice Christian trucking groups. Alex from Mother Trucker. I got the coolest Mother Trucker t-shirt.
I love their slogan. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, Mother Trucker.
He's the one, Brooke. He's the one that owns Big Rig Tees. He has 100 stores. You go to I-80. He's the owner.
He's the owner.
He's out of Miami. He does everything about. He's the one that came out and told everybody about Hirschbach buying out John Krishner. He's like, "Is that true? Is that?" And everyone came up, and he's the one that told. He comes out there and said, "I just heard something very sad about our driver." I mean, he is so about, and I told him, I said, I appreciate you. You're just like Trucker G. You're a huge person in the truck industry.
Gerald and Marianne.
He worked for United, and he still does that, and he still has that business. So
and
he drives too, so he knows.
There. Like Dutch said, he's right there, not a driver, but he's right there talking to everybody, shaking hands, just giving hugs, just, you know.
What's your Facebook? I want to follow you. What's your Facebook? What's your YouTube? I want to follow.
He's following all of us now.
Yeah.
And I got to ride with Trucker G in their truck and see their baby.
Did you?
I didn't know it was her.
Yeah,
this is before I met her. I didn't know it was her that was in the truck. She gets out, goes to her truck. I took my hand. I'm like, "Who's that?" And then
they couldn't find the parking lot, so on their live, I was giving them the address to put in their GPS, and I'm watching where they are on their live, so I can see, tell them where to go. And they still couldn't find it, so I actually went out on the street and was standing there, and somebody asked me if I was a working girl. Well, I was standing there waiting for them. I'm like, kind of, I don't know if I should be flattered or pissed, but
you're like, well, for the right price.
So when they pulled in the gate, they picked me up because it's a big lot, and they drove me around, and I got to love on their dogs and just wonderful. It was kind of cool to see them, and then we ran into them again inside. It's just be ready to hug 150 people if you come to the show, because everybody hugs in his family.
Okay, I got one burning question for you guys. I got one burning question.
Sure.
Was everybody wearing a mask, and were they afraid to touch each other?
Not one person, not one trucker that I saw in the parking lot had a mask on. We did see a couple inside, and everybody hugged nonstop.
They didn't care.
Nobody cared.
They didn't care. They just
The first day I went there, I wore a mask, and I said, "Fuck it, I'm not gonna wear it anymore." Because I mean, no one was wearing a mask.
10 people.
Of course, I did my hand sanitizer every night, but. You gotta be a little careful, but.
Well, I was just gonna say, there's a difference between being safe and
being paranoid.
Back to life, you know.
And being paranoid, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No.
Well, you guys, I'm so excited. You guys sound like you had a blast. You look like you had a blast.
My feet hurt.
Oh my gosh! I'm so excited for you guys. So excited.
Yeah, we had a good time. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience, you guys. We love you both so very much. And thank you again. We're going to go ahead and take our one more commercial, guys, and we'll drop Dutch and Terry off. Thank you again. And we'll bring Ed back to say goodbye. Bye, guys. Love you.
Bye, everybody.
Love you too.
Trucking Life is proud to introduce you to Margaret DeBalot, aka That Truckin' Chick, and aka Miss D, the Job Coach. Margaret is a published author and the proud creator of the Margaret in the Morning Show and the Empowerment Summit Tampa Bay. Be sure to follow all Margaret's adventures here on Trucking Life as she drives her passion to #change the world. Oh my gosh, he's knocked out now. He's done chewing on you.
Exactly.
Now that we're done.
Yeah, no, I guess the chews, you know what I'm talking about. Took
Right.
a little while to kick in there, but they finally kicked in. Before we leave, I wanna take a minute, if I could, to plug my new show.
Yes, please. Let's do it.
All right. So Big Rig Ed is hitting the reset button. I am coming back out with a new show called The Joy of Hauling. Basically, think The Joy of Painting. Think Bob Ross, but instead of a man making a painting, it's just a very kind, very calm man driving a truck, talking to you about what he sees and what's going on in the world today. So that video, the editing is done. I just have to export it and get it up on my YouTube channel. So check me out. YouTube, search for Big Rig Ed. You'll see my introductory video from November. Disregard that. I mean, if you want to watch it, you can.
Right.
But I'm going in a completely different direction now. And we're just gonna, hopefully once a week, whenever I'm driving through somewhere interesting and I've got some time to set up my tripod, I'm just gonna set up my camera and I'm gonna take people out on the road with me and have a little adventure with them and make sure that they, before the end of the video, that they feel calm and that they feel loved for and relaxed and cared about and everything, because that's just the kind of person that I am.
I love that you're re-energized and you're going to take on that project, So I don't know if I had a chance to tell everybody, but you and I got to sit down and have a date night, without Brooklyn and Johnny Dean. And we went to Italian the other night, you guys, and we just, got to know each other a little bit on a personal level, but then also just talked shop. And I'm going to tell you guys, Ed's a great guy, and I'm so excited that he's re-energized and going to show you what we here at Trucking Life have come to know as our Ed.
I really appreciate that. I really enjoyed your company as well. I'm just really happy to be here, and I'm really glad that that Missy gave me that kick in the butt that one night and said, "Hey, come meet these people." And it's kind of just meant a lot to me.
Well, you know what? We love you, and we are just excited to build this tribe, and that's exactly what we're doing. Ed, I know that you'll agree with me that we're building a close tribe. You know what I mean? We're all in this industry together. We're headed in the right direction. We're heading in the same direction. And I love that even when we, don't always agree on specific topics or whatever, the love is still there and the respect is still there. And we can come at this industry with the intent to make it a better place for everybody that's out here.
Excellent. 100%. All day.
100%.
What we do.
Right. Absolutely. Well, you guys, that's it for us. We're about 15 minutes over our time, but you know what? We had a blast, and apparently Dutch and TJ Granny, Miss Terry herself, had a whole lot more fun than I did this last weekend. But they had a great time at Matt's, and I'm so excited that they came on and shared that with us. And Ed, thank you so much for being my co-host today. I won't tell everybody what I called you in the chat, but
hey, I'm down. Either way, it's all good.
But we love you guys. Thanks again for watching. Take a look at our final commercial, because Miss Margaret is going back to work. Winter's over. She's getting her butt back on the truck. We will see more of her as well. But you guys have a wonderful Sunday, and catch us Wednesday night with Trucking Life at 7 p.m. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Do you want to be a part of our team of live streamers? Email us at truckinglife.live@gmail.com. Join us in showing the world how it all gets moved from here to there.